heard a lot of people saying that I need to start talking more about recent movies. And the reason I haven't done that is mostly because, well, don't want to like spoil them for people. So I thought a podcast would be the perfect way to solve that. Now I don't have to talk as much about it. I don't have to show that many clips about it. And so I brought another um, movie connoisseur, Imendu, to do this. You wanna give your Twitch chat to everyone so they can follow you?
Oh, sure. So sometimes I stream games on Twitch, sometimes CS, Dota, and the like. And the Twitch handle is RoyTTV, ROYYTTV.
That's okay. I'll just put it on Twitch.
All good?
Alright. Yeah, so this is just going to be a series of movies that we watch together, and we're just going to talk about them and what our experiences are with them. So, in the last month, we've watched a lot of movies, but I picked 4 that I thought might be the most interesting to discuss. So, we're going to start with a movie we watched like 2 days ago, and it's called Divinity.
True immortality of both body and mind.
Just the right size to fit your pocket.
It's directed by Eddie Alcazar, and there are a lot of interesting things about this movie. So, do you want to start with telling them what the movie's about?
Yeah, so essentially the movie is about a serum being invented by this billionaire that supposedly prevents aging. And now that the billionaire has passed away, his son has the reins to it. And he's on this off-world planet, I think, in a factory, trying to refine this serum before it can be used by the people. And the antagonists are people who say that you can't play God and make such a serum, so they come and try to destroy it. And then the movie revolves around that dynamic.
All right. So yeah, the first thing that we were kind of discussing when we were in the theater itself is that this movie didn't have a script.
Yeah.
So it did feel that way. The movie didn't have a script, but it was mostly through these drawings that Eddie made that he kind of made the whole film. So I probably shouldn't call him that, but I just did. Anyway,
Why not?
I don't know. It's like weird to say like,
Eddie?
oh, he's Eddie.
Like he's my buddy, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. But he's Eddie Alcazar made this movie just by drawing like pictures and showing people how it would go. But there was no like real script into how he came up with this. It was just mostly like a concept that he wanted to experiment with. Do you feel like that sort of bleeds into like the story elements of this movie?
So I personally didn't even realize that there isn't a script until you told me after the movie. But in hindsight, yeah, because when the movie began, I was like, okay, this is a pretty cool idea, and it's the way it was being shown was like it's like really mysterious and you don't know much, but it's also intriguing and you want to know more. That's how it started, and then it just kept going on and on and on. I was like, okay, get to the point already. So in hindsight, that seems to be a result of we don't have a script, so we're just improvising, and they kind of lost track of actually getting to the point in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, I was also starting to feel that this movie was going a little bit on the style over substance. But that said, the style is like a very specific style. So this movie was actually filmed on like real film. Like it was like 16mm black and white reversal film. So that's not like a camera that people normally use. And the reason for that is because it like really ups the contrast and things like that. For me, I think the issue with this is not that the film itself has like such an interesting feel. It's the fact that sometimes Eddie Alcazar doesn't do a good job with taking these shots that are in the dark because of the camera quality itself. Now, I get that that's a stylistic choice, but that did kind of detract from like any scene that took place in like bad lighting or there was like a lot of shadow. You couldn't really see very clearly what was going on.
Yeah, it. So when I was watching it was clear that it's on the lower side in terms of budget. So I remember once you told me that sometimes directors they opt to do this because black and white obscures their not so great props, or like the environment is not set up correctly. So I thought that was the reason. I didn't know it was like a creative choice. I thought it was just so that we don't really have a great setup, so maybe black and white would offset some of that.
I didn't feel that way for the most part, for most of the film, that they had like bad props or anything. It looked like they took it on set,
Mm-hmm.
like not in set, but it was like in location. They were like filming, like it looked like in a Nevada desert or something.
Yeah.
And they had like a nice house, which is where most of this film takes place. So yeah, I understandably it is a low budget, like probably on the lower end of the spectrum, but I don't think that they were trying to obscure anything with the black and white. But I think it was more of a stylistic choice because a lot of it was very like 1950s inspired.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like noir tones to it, and the advertisements.
Yeah. Those were definitely like 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, they were very like, if you watched any like what do you call it? Like a infomercial, they were very infomercial.
Yeah.
That was the right word.
Definitely reminded me of the CRT TV era.
Mm.
The CRT era, and that even the audio is kind of muffled.
It's
just
older than that.
old
It
school.
felt even older than that.
Yeah.
It felt like, like very much like people used to still walk around in like full suits and didn't wear like casual clothing ever outside the house. Like it was just pajamas at home, and outside you wore suits.
Yeah.
That was the era they were going for.
Yeah.
What do you think of the lead, Stephen Dorff? The one who plays
The scientist's son.
yeah.
I think he did a good job. I think his acting was fine, but then did he really have much to act? Because in the beginning he was, some naughty business with the girl, and then he was focusing on the serum. But the second half of the movie, we couldn't even see him. He had a thing.
But I think that the thing for me is that like he had like all this like Frankenstein. So basically, what happens in the movie is that this potion that he invents, that's like immortality. He ends up like these people break into his house, and they're like, oh, we don't want you to like sell this to people. So we're gonna do like a test and see what happens to this if you like overdose on this like serum, right? So they inject it into him, and over the course of the movie, he starts going more and more. He starts looking very Frankenstein's monster, which is like an interesting choice because you can like see like they went through the effort to like do a lot of makeup on him to make him look like that. But it's like, I think it's impressive to me that even through all that, you could see the acting he was doing. Sure, it was a lot of like, you could argue it's a lot of groaning and not that much dialogue.
Yeah.
But you could see the expressions he was doing through all of that makeup, which is very impressive to me. I think he's my favorite part of this movie, like overall.
My favorite character.
Was it Michael Hearn?
Michael Hunt for the memes, sure. But I think other than that, we only really got to focus that much on, who do you say he was? Stephen Dorff, yeah. I feel like he was kind of the central character. But I enjoyed all of Mike's scenes. So.
Yeah. You liked Mike.
Yeah,
But they didn't play the...
I just had reels playing in my head the entire time.
Just thinking of, baby, don't hurt
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
He was like the picture representation of what they were going for, which is that, like life when you are immortal and perfect is just like these scantily clad women and just a bunch of bodybuilders. So Michael Hearn played a good, like he was the perfect for that role,
Yeah. Speaking of characters, so you remember the two angels that came, right, to destroy the sea?
I was gonna blow your mind with one of them.
No, so I was telling you the whole time, right? This guy looks familiar. I've seen this guy. So I went home and looked it up.
He's from Hannah Montana.
Yeah, it was Rico.
Exactly.
I just looked that up. I was like, That's where I saw
I
it.
was gonna surprise you with that. Like I was like, I'm gonna blow your mind right now.
No, I looked it up. I was telling you the whole time, I've seen this guy somewhere.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the last time I saw him, he was a little child. So
Yeah.
that's why I didn't recognize him.
He wasn't a child in that movie.
He did Hannah Montana.
He wasn't a child though, right? He was pretty like. He
In
was
Hannah Montana?
I think he was older, as far as I remember, than a lot of the cast.
Wait, what?
I thought
Wasn't he like 12 years old?
Really?
He was a little baby.
I
Right?
mean, I knew that.
Or was
like,
he just short?
I think he's just short, but I'm not
Oh.
sure. Like,
He's pretty tall now.
yeah, I thought he was like, yeah, that's what.
It's Rico. I
It
was
is.
like,
I know.
whoa.
That's why I was like, where has Rico gone? He went to outer space.
Yeah.
I guess after his shop failed, he had no choice.
Yeah. Rico's empanadas, that shop.
It just went.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy from Hannah Montana.
I was like, I had this itch, I was like, oh, finally I knew.
You
Hannah
knew
was
it
it.
was. I was like,
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you like once we left, but yeah.
Yeah, I think both those guys did an okay job. Even though they didn't have much going on, but I think that was their role. They were just like stoic robots, kind of.
Yeah, they were very stoic, very much just trying to play this like
Mhm.
version of like an almighty god type of thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, to come to your point about how you felt this was kind of like low budgety, what did you think about like the final stop motion fight?
So, when I was, sitting there and watching it, in the moment I was like, not the best thing. It was kind of iffy. But later on, when you told me we are going to do this podcast, and I gave it some more thought, I was like, you know what? It's something that's not done that often. It looked, old schooly, and it was like movie, video game. So in the moment, I was like, it's not the place for it. But later on, I was like, it's pretty cool actually.
I think for me, it's like he did like I think Akasa's previous film was also like had a lot. It was like stop motion. So he had he kind of used inspiration from that, but also he didn't want to film like a full-fledged like action sequence. So because he didn't have the money for it, so he was like, alright, what do I do in between? And he went with stop motion, and I think that's a good choice. It felt very Mortal Kombat inspired, and I liked that a lot about it.
Mhm.
And it was a befitting ending to the film. That said, there's one last thing that I wanted to add, which is, what did you think of Bella Thorne?
Wait, before we go there, so tell me, what exactly is stop motion? Are they like figurines that they're animating? What
Yeah,
is
so
it?
basically they're like figurines that they animate one by one. So like they stop
Mhm.
and then they turn it and then they film it and then they stop and turn it and film it.
Uh,
So then they congregate all of those like things together and it becomes like a motion graphic.
okay.
So it's like actually really painstaking to do, but it's very like
It was cool. Yeah, I've heard of the term, but I never really gave it more thought.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Bella Thorne looked great, but not the best actress, I'd
No,
say.
she's not. She cannot act.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went to this movie for two reasons, and the first one was the fact that it had Bella Thorne in it, and I was like, this can't be a good movie if supposing Bella Thorne's in it.
Yeah.
But I was more pleasantly surprised, and it might have been because she wasn't in the film for as long as anyone else. The main character was Stephen Roth, which was great. And the second reason is because on the poster they said this is a cult classic in the making.
Yeah, not the best way. It's kind of pompous almost, Before even people watch it and review it, you're like, this is a cult classic. It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's not though.
It was like a Sundance review. That was what they had like in their final review. So this
Yeah.
premiered at Sundance, and that was
Oh.
the review they gave. And yeah, I agree
I
with
guess
you.
that kind of makes it better than.
No, it
Not
wasn't.
great, but at least better than nothing. At least
I-
somebody called it a cult classic.
I know, but I still think to me it's like I get it. Like I kind of get it now after watching the movie. It seems like one of those movies, very experimental horror, right? So, yeah, I would say a select few would like the movie. It's not like one of those films that everyone's gonna love. But even then, I think it is a little like, you're kind of getting ahead of yourself calling it a cult classic.
Yeah.
Overall, do you think this movie worked for you, or it didn't work for you, or it was kind of medium?
Yeah, I'd say it was kind of medium, because I did like their, the unique art style and filming, like using the old school camera. I also like the concept, honestly. I like sci-fi, I like that kind of stuff. So I was happy with it, but when the movie ended, conceptually, I was like, that's it? Is that it? Their concept was it was too simple, I feel like. They portrayed the movie as if it's, it has this profound meaning, and look at this art style and you got to interpret it in this way and that way. But then when you think about it, it's just, oh, A, B, C, and that's the plot. It was too simple.
Exactly.
So that's why I'd say medium.
So yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think every element worked for me, but I do think it's an interesting film to check out for sure. Because who knows, you might be part of the people who consider this a cult classic. Because it's definitely one of those films that I can understand why somebody would say that about it. It's a film for a select few, and those people are gonna love it. But it's not really for everyone. So now we finished our first category. Now we're going into the depths of hell. We're going to talk about Bhagavanth Kesari.
I've made a huge mistake.
So the reason I wanted to watch this movie is because I saw this meme that was like, which is going to win in box office? And it was Leo, Bhagavanth Kesari, Tiger Shroff's new movie, and one more person. I don't remember. So, and then I was like, okay, well, we should at least watch one of those. I refuse to watch any Tiger Shroff movies, but at least Bala Krishna might be like a decent place to go,
Yeah.
There's a possibility of it at least being entertaining instead of just bad. So
why do people call him Balaya if it's Bala Krishna?
His name is Bala Space Krishna, so he's Balaya. Aya is like a respectful thing to say.
Oh, okay. Is it like Anna in Kannada?
It's like Sar.
Sar. Okay.
Bala Sar.
So that movie was a train wreck.
So I've watched a few Balaya movies for sure, and I will say that this was on the much better end of the spectrum, and for one primary reason, and that's the fact that he doesn't pretend to be 20 years old. Right?
That's good.
That's a huge step up from everything. But you want to actually go through the story of this movie, and you can say I'm just giving you the first positive, and that's probably the only positive I'm gonna have to say about this film. Well, the story is basically that there's this man who's been arrested for some unknown crime, and he's like he catches the attention of the jail warden, in that district, and they realize he's like, oh, this guy seems really nice. I'm not sure why he's in jail, but I think he's had his recuperation, he's been rehabilitated. So he agrees to let him come and take care of his kid, and unfortunately the police officer passes away in some freak accident, and as a result now Balaya is tasked with taking care of this young daughter of the police inspector, and it's kind of the story about how he's trying to raise this kid to be brave and strong, but she's deeply traumatized by her dad's death, and she refuses to 110% follow Balaya. But as she gets these secrets revealed about his past, and there's this looming danger of a old villain from Balaya's like backstory. She kind of like becomes more strong and powerful, and this is just her story in that sense. If you feel like I've been rambling on forever, that's because this movie doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. This movie
Has the worst tagline.
What is the tagline?
I don't care.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that's what everyone said when they were writing the script. Oh, you wait a second, this is a plot hole? I don't care.
Bro, I don't care.
It's supposed to be like a wow moment, like you're supposed to get impressed when he
It's
says
like
that.
a toddler yelling at
Yeah.
him. Yelling because they did get candy. They're like, I don't care, I want the candy.
It was like, it's so underwhelming. The moment is set up, like there's an aura of like, I'm Batman, and then he just goes like, I don't care, and it's like, what does that even mean? It's almost
like a
like I'm
rare
embarrassed for
comedy.
him. There's the usual Indian movie thing where every action hero is like Superman. He's like punching people, they're flying left, right, and center.
They usually have good dialogue, like they have a good punch dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of those kind of movies.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't care. It doesn't do anything for that. It almost is like he's looking at reviewers watching his movie and he's like, oh, you don't like my story? Well, I don't care. I make money. That's what it feels like. Let's talk about the love interest in this movie.
What was the name?
Kajal Agarwal.
Kajal Agarwal, yeah.
What do you think of her with him?
I think she looks at least 30 years younger to him.
She is probably 30
She could be.
Because I think he's like 63 and she's like 30 something.
Yeah, so it's kind of ironic. The entire message of the movie is like he cares about women and it's upliftment of women.
Yeah, because he's.
And then he goes and does this, and there's also some scenes that's like against grooming and SA and stuff, right? And then it's kind of ironic to see him trying to court this 30-something when he's like 70 or something.
And the
Yeah,
thing
it does make
for
sense.
me that makes it so much worse is the audacity they have to have him call her auntie, and they're like, "Oh, this is funny, laugh." No, I'm not laughing at this. This is just cringe. This is so bad. It's terrifying. It's terrible, and I hate it. 0 out of 10 in that sense. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the horribly cringe message,
Which was?
which was that like of the message of like if supposing someone's like touching you inappropriately, kids go and don't tell your parents.
Oh, that. So are you talking about the scene where he goes into the school? Yeah, so there's this. I don't know how these things are not caught in writing, but there's this scene where, so Balaya Bhagwan Kesari is, going around and he meets this little girl who's been, touched inappropriately by somebody else, and she confides by an auto driver.
Yeah, by the driver who takes him to school every day.
Oh, by her school driver. So I don't remember why, but she confides in him.
Because she's insane. She just walks into she's like in the school next to. So basically, the story of upliftment that Bhagwan Kesari has for his daughter is he's going to put him in like the Indian army. He's going to put her in the Indian army. So he sends her to this like camp to like train her or whatever. That's a fine story. What I don't get is why, like, when she's in this training camp, randomly some girl like runs into the house, into the like military training facility, and then says, then tells some random uncle, that this guy was doing some weird shit with me. Like, what? There's no part of it that made any sense.
It sounds like they were done with the movie. They were done scripting it. And then a bulb went off in somebody's head, and they were like,
So it was like, we need message.
Yeah, this message is not in the movie. We need to add this message as well.
Is
So
that
they
a
just
bullet
like do
point?
like a little side quest.
They had
or
a
something else.
PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
They were like, we need all of these in our checklist.
Yeah.
And the thing that's even more questionable to me is that all this has happened, right? and then he runs into the school to tell them that this has happened, right? And no red flags are going off that some random guy has walked into the like how with this child in his arms, especially when you consider what message he was trying to give to them.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a red flag to you. Like, oh, this is not like something that's dangerous at all.
Yeah, it's just you can see it was kind of done haphazardly, and it's also completely ridiculous how he's bringing this little girl, obviously revealing her identity to the entire school, and
It's just traumatized
talking
child.
about her traumatic incident, and then I feel like it's almost certainly going to lead to like bullying or some kind of ostracizing by the other kids. So I don't know why they did that.
And not just that, like the message is even weirder to me because he's just like, if this happens, go tell, like even if supposing it's your own dad, if you go tell your mom, she won't she'll believe you. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, did you forget that women can also do this to children, or are you just dumb? It's like, sure, I get it. Like, I get the sentiment you're going for. Like, if one parent is doing it, go tell the other. Why don't you just say that? Just say, if one parent is doing it to you, go tell the other parent, and they're probably going to protect you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that should be the message you're giving out. Not, oh, only men can do this. Like, only men can harass people. Like, that's not the right message here. It's just not even they were trying to give a good message. They did like a thorough job. They just messed it up, did some random thing in the middle of the movie, and everyone's supposed to clap for him because he's giving a good message.
Yeah.
You should do a better job if you're telling messages. Speaking of the military side plot, which is supposed to be the main plot, but it feels like a complete afterthought as well. What do you think of the fight scenes in this movie?
So I think that one fight scene with the Gatling gun, right? When Bhagwan Kesari got the Gatling gun, like the tunnel and was shooting at people, right? I think that was cool. But all the scenes where it was fisticuffs, physical fighting, they were way over the top. Bhagwan Kesari, yeah, okay, we get it. He's supposed to be a strong man, but then he's not though. He looks like he's obese. So it doesn't make sense there. And then towards the end, the villain Arjun Rampal's fighting with like a broken leg.
I know.
And he's actually, putting up a good fight. So that's just so unrealistic.
I think the part that's like really baffling to me is that the main villain in this story is a disabled man. Like he's literally a disabled man. It's just like I don't know how like you're supposed to look good when you're fighting against a disabled man.
Yeah.
And I think the part that's even more dumb than that is the fact that like his daughter has gotten like military training, and instead of like fighting this man who can't even walk properly because he's literally disabled, she just like hides in some corner at the end of the movie. It's just like so brain dead. Like it's like, no, the whole point is this is supposed to be like a father-daughter bonding story. So why don't you just let her continue fighting? Like you should just stop halfway through the film because she's insane.
And she does fight like his cronies.
Yeah.
She puts up a good fight. She, kicks guys around. And
she whoops everyone's ass.
Yeah. And the entire movie before that, she's supposed to be this sheltered, weak, timid girl.
Yeah.
Then she finally blossoms into like a fighter, and she does fight all the villains' cronies. And when the time comes to fight the actual boss, but who's like one-legged, she's apparently too scared.
Yeah, it's like it completely defeats the whole point of the story until that point. Because until that point, they were talking about how she's this like. So she's like scared, but she's gotten over that fear, right? And that's why she's like able to finally like fight these people. And then they just like revert her back to the old status, which is like, no, you've undone the character development she's had. Like it's so stupid. I remember seeing some review where someone was like, oh, the camera work in this movie is actually really good. Like it's like an interesting, and I'm just thinking back to like, I don't remember any like very like new shot that I saw.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean.
I guess maybe the final fight is kind of like a little bit John Wick, like inspired.
No.
But but it's not really like it's not as good as John Wick.
Yeah,
So-
it's not nearly as good.
So,
I wouldn't say I can remember too many mistakes. Not that I actively looked for them, but yeah, I mean, the camera work seemed normal.
it seemed
Nothing
very
special.
like very standard action movies. I don't
Yeah.
know why they were saying that. In fact, if anything, there were some really weird like shots where it was just like a static back and back of like cool people are talking like coolly and
Mhm.
it's just like they're just like exchanging words, so it's not even like anything very entertaining.
Yeah, for me at least, it was nothing memorable.
Yeah, I guess it's not as bad as other Balaya movies. That's kind of
Really?
that's the best I can give it, is that it's not as bad as other Balaya
You're
movies.
telling me this was some of his finest work?
It is his finest work.
I'm never watching Balaya again. If this is his peak, I don't want to find out what the rest is.
We'll watch his previous movie and
Oh
then
my
you'll know,
god.
you'll know his real.
So now I get it why it was such a joke when we were watching this other movie, right?
Oh yeah, when we were
Something with
watching
M.
Puli Shetty.
No. This was Puli Shetty, and they were like Balaya, Jai Balaya or something.
It's a
So
meme.
now
He's
I
a
get
meme.
it. I get it now. Yeah.
He's literally a meme. That's why I think it's so funny that they compared him with the movie that we actually liked, which was Leo.
He's a freaking badass.